You are standing on the outskirts of a great city, a hub of life and civilization in the heart of this ancient region, roughly 2,500 years before the Common Era. You are not an observer, but a participant, dressed in a simple, light-colored wool garment that feels soft and breathable against your skin. A belt of braided reed keeps it secure at your waist, and your sandals, crafted from sturdy, oiled leather, protect your feet as you walk along the well-worn, dust-covered path. Ahead of you, the city begins to stir, its silhouette emerging from the fading violet of dawn. The massive, sun-dried mud bricks of the city walls catch the first rays of the morning light, glowing with a warm, amber hue. In the center of the horizon, you see the towering profile of the ziggurat, a stepped mountain of clay and kiln-fired brick rising toward the pale blue sky. It is a structure of profound order and stability, grounding the sprawling city in a sense of divine purpose. The light reflects off the edges of the steps, creating long, soft shadows that stretch across the surrounding plains. As you walk toward the city gates, the path is lined with irrigation canals, their surfaces still and glassy. The scent here is earthy and rich, a blend of damp soil, the sharp, clean smell of river water, and the faint, sweet aroma of barley ripening in the nearby fields. You pass a small cluster of farmers who are already at work, their movements slow and rhythmic as they guide water from the canals into the waiting soil with wooden levers. Their faces are calm, focused on the task, unbothered by the passage of time. The sound of water splashing against clay and the soft rustle of stalks in the breeze create a lullaby of industry and growth. You reach the main gate, which stands open, inviting you into the heart of the city. You are headed toward the temple complex, the administrative and spiritual center of this community. Within these walls, you hold a position of respect and quiet authority. You are a brewer in the service of the temple, a guardian of the sacred process of creating beer. This is not just a job, it is a vital contribution to the welfare of your people. Beer is the lifeblood of this land, a safer and more nutritious alternative to the water of the river, and a gift from the goddess Ninkasi, the divine patron of brewing. You step through the archway, the atmosphere changing as you enter the temple precincts. The noise of the city streets fades, replaced by a deep, resonant quiet that feels like a physical presence. The walls here are thicker, designed to shield the interior from the sun and keep the temperature steady throughout the day. You pass by storehouses where grain is kept in tall ceramic jars, their surfaces marked with the seals of the temple administrators. The scent of roasted barley grows stronger, mixing with the cool, slightly yeasty air of the fermentation. Chambers. You walk through a courtyard where the light is filtered by woven reed mats stretched high overhead, creating a dappled, shifting pattern of shadow and sun upon the ground. A stray cat lounges in a patch of warmth, watching you with half-closed eyes, completely undisturbed by your presence. You continue toward the brewing quarters, where the air is noticeably cooler and darker. Here, the floor is paved with smooth, polished clay, and you can feel its cool texture through the thin soles of your sandals. The room is filled with rows of large earthenware vats, some partially sunk into the ground, to ensure the contents remain at a consistent, temperate state. You stop before a workbench, where a set of tools lies neatly arranged. A flat stone for grinding, a wooden paddle worn smooth by years of use, and a collection of woven baskets for straining. You take a moment to observe the space, noticing the subtle, intricate details of the room. Small niches in the wall hold clay figurines of protective spirits, their tiny, hand-carved features serene and watchful in the dim light. You run your fingers over the edge of a clay pot, feeling the cool, firm surface, its curves perfect and symmetrical. Everything in this room is placed with intent, reflecting the order and precision required for your work. The process of brewing is a long, deliberate journey. It starts not with the liquid, but with the bapir, a dense, twice-baked bread that serves as the heart of the fermenting agent. You look toward the shelves where the loaves of bapir are stacked, their dark, crusty surfaces smelling of toasted grains and deep, earthy sweetness. These loaves represent the accumulated effort of the harvest, a concentrated form of sustenance waiting to be transformed. You feel a sense of profound connection to the cycles of the seasons, the labor of the farmers, and the enduring needs of the people of this city. The silence of the brewery is absolute, broken only by your own steady, measured breathing. There is no urgency here, only the patient unfolding of time. As you begin your preparations, moving with slow and practiced motions, you feel the tension leaving your muscles. You are in rhythm with the world around you, a world where the most important thing is the transformation of simple grain and water into something that brings joy, health, and social cohesion. You lean against a support pillar, letting the cool mass of the mud brick anchor you, and prepare to start the day, your mind as clear and calm as the still water in the vats before you. Everything is ready, and the morning stretches out ahead, a long, quiet span of time waiting to be filled with the simple, sacred labor of your craft. Your hands reach out toward the stack of bapir, the dense, toasted loaves of barley bread that serve as the foundation of your work. The loaves are firm, almost hard, a deliberate choice by those who baked them in the ovens outside the temple walls. You pick one up, feeling the weight and the rough texture of the baked crust against your palms. It is cool to the touch, and you can smell the deep, smoky sweetness of the toasted grain that has been preserved within. This bread is not meant for immediate consumption. It is a repository of energy, a way to capture the harvest so that it might be transformed into the divine drink of ninkasi. You break the loaf, the sound a crisp, satisfying snap in the quiet room, and the scent of yeast and scorched wheat releases into the air around you. You begin to crumble the bread into the large earthenware vat before you. The pieces are uneven, some falling as coarse crumbs, others as larger chunks, and you watch as they tumble down into the dark, curved interior of the vessel. Each movement you make is deliberate, practiced, and slow. You have performed this action hundreds of times, yet you approach it with the same reverence as the first. The temple is quiet, the air cool and still, and you are conscious only of the rhythm of your own hands and the sound of the bread striking the sides of the clay jar. It is a peaceful, repetitive labor that quiets the mind, allowing you to exist entirely in the moment. The vessel you are working with is crafted from local clay, thick and heavy, designed to maintain a consistent temperature, shielding its contents from the heat that will soon rise outside. The interior surface is smooth, cool, and clean, waiting for the ingredients that will eventually become the lifeblood of the community. Once the bread is broken and distributed evenly at the bottom, you step away, letting your hands rest for a moment. You look at the other brewers nearby. They move with the same measured pace, their figures casting long, soft shadows against the mud brick walls as they tend to their own vessels. There is no need for conversation. The work itself is a shared language. Next, you move to the large water jar situated near the center of the room. The water is cool, drawn from the irrigation canals that have been meticulously managed to keep the city thriving. You lift the heavy ceramic dipper and pour the water into the vat. The sound of the liquid splashing over the broken bread, a gentle, bubbling noise that echoes softly in the chamber. The water flows over the crumbs, soaking into the dry, porous bread. You watch as the level rises, the bread beginning to soften and expand as it absorbs the moisture. The scent in the room shifts, deepening as the water interacts with the toasted grain, becoming richer, sweeter, and slightly sour, the very first hint of the transformation that is about to occur. This stage is vital, requiring you to be attentive to the balance. The ratio of water to bread is a knowledge passed down through generations, a silent understanding of what will result in the most balanced brew. You lean slightly over the rim of the vat, observing the way the water darkens as it pulls the sugars and nutrients from the bread. You reach for a long wooden paddle, its handle polished smooth by years of use. You insert it into the vat and begin to stir, the motion slow and circular, watching the swirling pattern of the grain and the water. The wood feels cool and grounding in your grip, and you can feel the subtle resistance of the bread as it dissolves into the liquid. As you stir, you reflect on the nature of this work. Brewing is a process of patience. You are not forcing anything to happen. You are merely creating the conditions for nature to take its course. It is a slow, quiet surrender to the elements. The heat of the day will eventually penetrate the walls of the brewery, gently warming the vats. But for now, in these early hours, the coolness of the morning preserves the clarity of the mixture. The room feels incredibly safe, a sanctuary where the outside world's pressures do not exist. There is only the consistent, rhythmic circular motion of your hand and the sound of the liquid gently lapping against the sides of the clay vat. The light in the room seems to shift slightly, a sliver of sun catching a stray particle of dust in the air. You watch it dance, illuminated for a heartbeat before it settles back into the quiet dimness of the brewery. It is a reminder of the vast, bright world outside, but it feels very distant, a dream compared to the reality of the work you are performing. Here, life is measured in the fermentation of grain, the flow of water, and the quiet satisfaction of a job performed with care. The floor beneath your sandals is solid, unchanging, a foundation of earth that has supported this city for as long as anyone can remember. After a few minutes of steady stirring, you withdraw the paddle and set it aside, resting it against the side of the vat. The mixture has thickened, a heavy, porridge-like consistency that will eventually become the mash. You take a moment to observe the surface of the liquid, noting the way the small bubbles begin to form, a sign that the life within the mixture is beginning to stir. It is a small thing, nearly imperceptible, but it is the beginning of the end product. You feel a sense of quiet accomplishment. The work is steady, and it is going according to the tradition. You move to the next station, a series of smaller, unglazed jars lined up along the wall. These contain the herbs and flavorings that will be added later in the process, once the main fermentation has settled. You run your fingers along the rough, dry rims of the jars, feeling the grit of the clay. They are empty for now, waiting for the time to be filled. You know where each one belongs, the order of the ingredients, a map that exists in your mind as clearly as the walls of the city. Everything in this room has a place and a purpose, and that order brings a deep sense of internal peace. You walk past the windows, where the light is now beginning to intensify, casting bright geometric patterns of illumination across the floor. You pause to look through one of the apertures. Outside, the city is starting to stir. You see a merchant leading a donkey laden with baskets, the animal's hooves stirring up small puffs of dust that drift in the morning air. You see a woman walking toward the temple with a woven mat under her arm. The world is beginning its day, but inside you remain in the quiet, cool, and protected space of the brewery. You are buffered from the noise, the movement, and the urgency of the marketplace. The scent of the fermentation continues to change, becoming slightly more pungent as the bread fully integrates with the water. It is not an unpleasant smell. It is the smell of life, of nourishment, and of the fundamental sustenance that keeps the people of this city healthy. It is a smell you have known your entire life, associated with the comfort of home and the reliability of the temple. You return to your vat, satisfied with the pause you took, and pick up the wooden paddle once more. The motion resumes, steady and slow, a heartbeat of productivity that matches your own breathing. You are entirely at ease, caught in the flow of a task that has been performed this way for countless generations. And as you stir, you feel yourself syncing perfectly with the rhythm of the ancient city outside. You are a steady, quiet presence in a world that is waking up, and there is nowhere else you would rather be. The heavy wooden paddle now leans against the side of the vat, its surface still glistening slightly from the mash. You wipe your hands on the rough wool of your apron, a simple, rhythmic gesture that clears the dust from your palms. The mixture you have prepared, the base of bapir and water, sits quietly, the surface beginning to settle into a still, dark pool. It is a waiting game now, a period where you allow the natural enzymes within the bread to begin the process of unlocking the sugars. This is the patience of the brewer, a quality as essential as the grain itself. You stand still, listening to the ambient sounds of the temple, realizing that the bustle of the city outside has begun to reach a higher, more energetic pitch. Yet here, you are encased in a profound, unchanging silence. You turn away from the central vat and walk toward the storage area at the back of the room, where the light is even dimmer, almost like the twilight of a late evening. Here, rows of large clay jars are neatly lined against the wall, sealed with clay lids to keep their contents protected from the heat and the insects. These jars hold the precious additives that will give the brew its unique character and facilitate the fermentation. Crushed dates. The dates, sticky and dark with concentrated sweetness, are the lifeblood of the fermentation, providing the sugars that the yeast will eventually convert into the mild alcohol that characterizes this sacred drink. You reach for one of the lids, the cool clay yielding easily under your touch. As you lift it away, a heavy, sweet aroma drifts upward, the smell of sun-dried fruit, deeply concentrated and rich, a sharp contrast to the earthy grain of the bapir. You look down into the jar. The dates are pressed together, a dense, dark mass that has been carefully prepared. You take a wooden scoop and begin to break apart the sticky fruit, feeling the resistance and the soft, yielding texture of the dates. Each piece you scoop out is heavy, a testament to the harvest that was brought in during the hotter months and carefully preserved for this very moment. The process of preparing the dates is tactile and deliberate. You place the fruit into a shallow stone mortar. With a heavy stone pestle, you begin to grind the dates. The rhythmic thud, thud, thud of the pestle against the stone is a sound that has defined the working day of countless ancestors. It is a steady, grounding noise that fills the small space behind you. You feel the vibration in your arm, a pleasant, low-level physical exertion that keeps your focus entirely on the task. The dates break down into a smooth, dark paste, releasing a concentrated syrup that clings to the stone. It is slow work, but it is necessary. You are not rushing. You are simply allowing the fruit to yield. As you work, you watch the light changing through a high, narrow slit in the wall. The sun has moved, and now a focused beam of light cuts through the dust-filled air, illuminating the swirling particles as if they were suspended in water. It is a beautiful, fleeting sight that reminds you of the transience of all things, even as you work to create something enduring. The brewery is a place where you observe the slow passage of time through the transformation of matter. The date paste becomes smoother, the syrup becoming more uniform, until it is a thick, dark, fragrant jam ready to be introduced to the waiting mash. You scrape the paste from the mortar, taking care not to waste any of the precious essence, and carry the bowl back toward the central vats. The walk across the cool, packed earth floor feels steady beneath your feet. You are moving with purpose, yet without haste. As you reach the vat, you pause, looking down at the mash. It has darkened slightly, absorbing the moisture, and the surface is calm. You gently pour the date paste into the mixture, using your wooden paddle to swirl it in. The dark, sweet addition streaks through the lighter color of the barley mash, a swirling dance of textures and hues that slowly blends into a consistent, rich brown. The scent in the room shifts again, becoming even deeper, more complex. It is the smell of the fields and the orchard combined, a marriage of grain and fruit that is the very essence of Sumerian brewing. You stir carefully, ensuring the dates are fully integrated, distributing their sugars evenly throughout the liquid. The paddle moves through the increasingly viscous mixture, and you feel the weight of it, the satisfying resistance that tells you the brew is taking form. You are not just mixing ingredients, you are choreographing a chemical transformation that has been perfected over centuries. You step back, your work at this station complete, and take a moment to look at your surroundings. The brewery is more than a room. It is a repository of history. Every jar, every paddle, every mark on the wall tells a story of the people who came before you. The way the vessels are arranged, the specific height of the clay benches, all of these are the result of generations of experimentation. You feel a sense of connection to those unnamed brewers who stood in this very spot, performing these very same motions. They are gone, but their knowledge, their dedication, and their craft live on through your own hands. You move to a small, low bench and sit down for a moment. The wood is smooth, polished by the many people who have sat here to rest. It is a quiet, meditative time. You watch the surface of the vat, observing the tiny, microscopic activity that is beginning to take place. You know that within the darkness of the liquid, the transformation is underway. It is a silent, invisible process, yet it is happening with absolute certainty. This is the comfort of your work, that you set the conditions, you perform the necessary labor, and then nature takes over. It is a lesson in letting go, and trusting that the world will provide if you do your part with care and intention. Outside, the wind has picked up slightly, a soft, dry breeze that whistles faintly against the exterior walls of the temple. You can hear the rustle of the palm fronds in the garden nearby, a sound like gentle applause. It is a soothing, rhythmic noise that seems to mirror the quiet activity inside. The temperature in the room remains stable, a testament to the wisdom of the architecture, shielding you from the shifting conditions of the outside world. You feel entirely at peace, protected and grounded, your body relaxed, your mind clear. As you sit, you watch a fellow worker enter the room. They move with the same quiet grace as you, carrying a basket of dried herbs. They acknowledge you with a simple, respectful nod. No words are needed. They go to their station, their movements a mirror of your own, as they begin to sort the herbs that will be used to flavor the final product. It is a shared existence, a cooperative effort that requires no complex coordination, only a mutual understanding of the work and the rhythm of the day. You feel a sense of unity with them, a shared purpose that transcends the need for communication. The atmosphere in the brewery is one of absolute serenity. The dust motes dance in the shafts of light. The air is thick with the scent of barley and dates, and the silence is punctuated only by the soft, rhythmic sounds of your colleagues' work. You are in a place of creation, a place of sustenance, and a place of deep ancestral history. There is nothing else you need to do right now, nothing you need to worry about. You are simply here, in this moment, observing the slow, steady progress of the brew as it begins its long journey toward completion. Your breathing is slow and deep, matching the stillness of the room, and you feel the weight of your day's labor settling into a comfortable, quiet satisfaction as you prepare to transition to the next phase of the process.
You rise from the low wooden bench, the movement slow and deliberate, your limbs feeling loose and relaxed after the brief period of rest. The quiet satisfaction of the morning's work anchors you as you walk back toward the center of the brewery. The colleague you are watching continues their work with the dried herbs, a collection of aromatics that will, in time, be introduced to the brew to balance the sweetness of the dates and the nuttiness of the barley. You approach the central vat, where the mash, now a dark, rich mixture of bread, water, and date paste, has been resting, absorbing the moisture and beginning its silent chemical transformation. This is the moment where the texture of the process changes. You reach for the large reed mats that hang against the far wall, their surfaces woven with intricate patterns that have been passed down through generations. These mats are not merely containers. They are essential tools for filtration, designed to separate the spent grain from the liquid that will become the beer. You lay the mat across the mouth of a clean, empty ceramic vessel, securing it firmly around the rim with a loop of braided cord. The reed is smooth and cool against your fingers, its texture uniform and familiar. With the careful, measured movements of a practitioner who knows the value of every drop, you begin the transfer. You use a shallow, wide-rimmed bowl to scoop the thick mash from the fermentation vat and pour it onto the center of the reed mat. The liquid begins to seep through the woven fibers, trickling down into the clean vessel below, while the solid, heavy remnants of the bread and grain are caught by the mesh. It is a slow, rhythmic process. You watch the steady drip of the liquid, a dark, viscous stream that reflects the dim light of the brewery. The sound is a soft, musical patter, a steady cadence that underscores the stillness of the room. The air around you is thick with the scent of the straining mash, a heady, complex aroma that is deeper and more refined than the raw ingredients you started with hours ago. It is the smell of potential, of a transformation nearly complete. As you pour each scoop, you take care to distribute the mash evenly, ensuring that the filter does not clog and that the precious liquid can pass through without obstruction. This attention to detail is what defines the work here. There is no such thing as being too careful, too patient, or too precise. Everything must be done in accordance with the established rhythm. As the vessel below begins to fill, you see the color of the liquid, a deep golden brown, clear and bright despite the dense ingredients that created it. It is a beautiful sight, the culmination of the morning's labor. You can hear the hum of the city outside becoming slightly more pronounced as the day progresses. The distant, muffled sound of a cartwheel on packed earth, the faint cry of a vendor, the rustle of life continuing its course. Yet these sounds remain distant, relegated to the periphery of your awareness. Here, the only thing that matters is the flow of the liquid and the steady, rhythmic pace of your own breath. You take a moment to look at the reeds after the liquid has drained. They are damp and heavy with the spent grain, holding the remnants of the barley that have given their essence to the brew. You carefully lift the mat and scrape the spent grain into a separate container. This leftover material will not be wasted. It will be used as feed for the livestock, ensuring that nothing from the harvest goes unused. It is a philosophy of total utility, an understanding that every part of the grain has a place in the cycle of the city. You clean the mat with a splash of water, shaking it dry before setting it aside, ready for the next use. The light in the brewery is changing again. The beams of sunshine that cut through the apertures are moving across the floor, tracing the slow arc of the day as it climbs toward its peak. The heat outside must be intense now, the sun blazing down on the plains and the river. But within these walls, the temperature remains steady and cool. The thick mud brick architecture acts as a natural buffer, a silent guardian of the work that occurs within. You feel a deep appreciation for the construction of this place, for the way it creates a sanctuary of climate and sound, allowing for the meticulous craft of brewing to proceed undisturbed. You move to the next vat, repeating the filtration process with the same care and intention. It is a meditative cycle. The scoop, the pour, the wait, the drip. Each action is identical to the one before, yet each time you feel yourself sinking deeper into a state of calm. The repetition is not monotonous. It is grounding. It anchors you in the present, preventing your mind from wandering toward the tasks of the coming days or the worries of the outside world. There is only the immediate task, the tactile sensation of the reeds, the sound of the liquid, and the steady, comforting presence of your colleagues. In the brief pauses between pours, you find yourself reflecting on the nature of the ingredients themselves. The barley, the water from the canal, the dates, each has its own story, its own journey to reach this spot. The barley grew under the watchful eye of the farmer, harvested by hand and threshed on the open floors. The dates were gathered from the groves, selected for their sweetness and quality. Everything in this room represents a convergence of labor, environment, and tradition. You are merely the final hand in a long sequence of care, the one who brings these disparate elements together into a singular, cohesive form. There is a profound sense of continuity in this work. You know that long after you are gone, others will stand in this spot, performing these same motions with the same reeds and the same vessels. The craft is the constant, a river of knowledge that flows through the generations, steady and unwavering. It is a comforting thought, a way of understanding your place in the wider tapestry of life. You are a link in an unbreakable chain, a custodian of a tradition that sustains the community and honors the gods who are said to have gifted the art of brewing to humanity. As you finish straining the second vat, You look toward the corner where your colleague has finished sorting the herbs. They stand, stretching their arms, the movement a silent acknowledgement of the passage of time. They approach you, offering a gourd of water, the clay cool against your palm. You drink deeply, the water refreshing and crisp, a simple pleasure that feels like a reward for the steady work of the morning. You nod your thanks, the silent communication once again passing between you. There is no need for words. The shared labor is sufficient. You set the gourd aside and wipe your brow. The air feels slightly warmer now, the afternoon heat beginning to exert a subtle pressure on the walls. But the interior of the brewery remains a cool, dark refuge. You look at the rows of vessels, now filled with the clarified golden liquid, each one a promise of nourishment and joy. The most labor-intensive part of the day is behind you, and a sense of lightness begins to settle in your chest. You have done your part well, and the brew is resting, ready to enter the final stages of its development. The rhythm of your movements slows, mirroring the quiet, steady pace of the temple, and you feel the peace of the afternoon wrapping around you, soft and enveloping, as you prepare to move to the next quiet task of the day. The quiet transition of the afternoon settles over you, a slow and heavy blanket of calm that seems to emanate from the thick mud brick walls themselves. The most physically demanding portion of your work is finished, and the filtered amber liquid now rests in the secondary vessels, still and shimmering in the dim light. You turn your attention to the herbs that your colleague has so carefully prepared. They sit in shallow, woven baskets, their colors muted by the drying process, earthy browns, sage greens, and the faint, dusty gray of dried botanicals. These are the final elements, the subtle signatures that will define the character of the brew, balancing the deep sweetness of the date paste and the robust, bready foundation of the barley. You approach the basket, reaching out to run your fingers through the dry, crinkled leaves. The scent is immediate and intoxicating, a mixture of coriander with its citrusy, warming undertones, and the sharper, more resinous notes of other regional aromatics that have been sourced from the trade caravans. It is a fragrance that speaks of the distant hills and the careful knowledge of the healers and the temple cooks, who understand the potency of every leaf and seed. You pick up a handful of the dried mixture, the dry texture rasping softly against your skin, and hold it for a moment, appreciating the simple, organic beauty of the ingredients. With a deliberate, unhurried motion, you move back to the vessels containing the filtered liquid. The surface of the beer is calm, reflecting the flickering, low light of the room. You begin to sprinkle the herbs onto the surface, your fingers guiding them so they fall in a light, even dusting. As they touch the surface, they do not sink immediately. They float, a vibrant, dry layer atop the golden brown liquid. You take your wooden paddle, now rinsed and clean, and gently stir the surface, folding the herbs into the brew with slow, circular motions. You watch as they are incorporated, the liquid swirling around them, drawing out their essence, their oils and flavors beginning to permeate the mix. The scent in the room shifts once more, becoming brighter, more nuanced. It is no longer just the heavy, earthy smell of grain. It is now layered with the uplifting, sharp fragrance of the herbs. It is a sensory experience that feels deeply nourishing, a testament to the sophistication of your craft. You feel a sense of pride in this subtle alchemy. You are not simply mixing things together, you are composing, creating a balance that will be pleasing and restorative for those who eventually partake in the final product. The temple beer is known for its quality, and this attention to the aromatics is why. As you stir, you reflect on the role this beer plays in the wider life of the city. It is not merely a beverage for the common man, it is a staple of the diet, a source of nutrition that is safer than the raw water of the river. And it is a central element of the communal and religious life of the Sumerians. It is served in the home, in the temple during offerings, and at the festivals that mark the turning of the seasons. To brew it well is to serve the community, to ensure that there is joy and sustenance for everyone. This sense of service adds a weight and a dignity to your work. You are an essential part of the life cycle of your city, an invisible hand that keeps the pulse of the community beating steadily. The afternoon sun is beginning to dip lower, and the light entering through the wall apertures shifts from a bright, piercing white to a softer, warmer gold. This change in light signals the slow winding down of the day, a natural rhythm that you feel in your own body. The early morning energy has long since dissipated, replaced by a deep, quiet contentment. You move from vessel to vessel, repeating the addition of the herbs with the same level of care. Each batch receives your full attention, a personal touch that ensures consistency. You are meticulous, leaving nothing to chance, trusting the process that has served you and your predecessors for generations. You find yourself observing the smaller details of your environment, the way the clay of the vessel feels warm where it has been exposed to the air, the faint indentations of fingerprints on the rim of the storage jars, the way the dust settles on the shelves in a soft gray blanket. There is a profound beauty in these ordinary things. They are the artifacts of a life lived in a state of flow, a life defined by work that is understood, accepted, and performed with diligence. You are not seeking novelty. You are seeking mastery of the routine, finding the hidden depths within the familiar. As you finish the final vessel, you set the paddle aside and lean against the cool wall of the brewery, taking a moment to breathe. The air is cool, and the quiet of the room feels incredibly heavy in the most comforting way possible. It is a silence that invites rest, a silence that seems to hold the brewery in a state of suspended animation while the brew begins its secret internal work. Outside, the sounds of the city have quieted as well. The bustle of the midday market has faded, the calls of the vendors have ceased, and the pace of life seems to be slowing down in anticipation of the evening. You watch your colleague, who is now meticulously cleaning the work surfaces. They use a wet cloth, wiping away any stray droplets, any fallen herbs, leaving the space as pristine as it was when the day began. This, too, is a part of the craft, the respect for the workspace, the understanding that a clean environment is essential for the integrity of the brew. You walk over and pick up a cloth to assist, joining them in the final smoothing strokes. The movement is efficient and quiet, we work together, the space transforming under our hands, the traces of our labor disappearing into a clean, ready slate. The atmosphere is one of profound peace. You are entirely present, the weight of the day's exertion feeling like a pleasant, dull ache in your shoulders. You know that you have done well. The vessels are filled, the herbs have been added, and the fermentation is now solely in the hands of the elements. You have done your part, and now you can step back, letting the natural processes unfold in the cool, dark sanctuary of the temple. The brewery seems to exhale, a slow, deep breath, and you feel yourself exhaling with it, your body softening, your mind drifting. As the day approaches its graceful, quiet conclusion, everything is in its place. The jars are covered, the tools are cleaned and hung in their designated spots, and the room is once again silent, save for the faint, almost imperceptible sound of the liquid settling within the vats. The light has almost completely left the room, the walls turning a deep, rich shade of shadow. It is time to leave the brewery, to step out into the cooling air of the late afternoon. But for a moment longer, you remain, lingering in the quiet, savoring the stillness that you have helped to create. It is a small, perfect ending to the day, and you feel entirely ready to move forward. You push the heavy wooden door open, the hinges groaning softly, a familiar sound that marks the transition from the dim, cool sanctuary of the brewery back into the sprawling expanse of the temple complex. The air that meets you is significantly warmer, though the intense heat of the midday sun has broken. The light is now a rich, syrupy gold, casting long, dramatic shadows that stretch across the packed earth courtyards. You step out, the dust of the ground soft beneath your leather sandals. The transition is gentle. You carry the profound quiet of the brewing room with you, a steady calm that acts as a buffer against the waking world. The temple complex in the late afternoon is a place of organized, purposeful movement. It is a city within a city, a vast network of courtyards, storerooms, workshops, and administrative quarters, all centered around the towering ziggurat that looms in the near distance. You begin to walk slowly along the wide, sun-baked pathways, your destination the communal dining area where the temple workers gather as the day's primary labors conclude. The path is familiar, every uneven patch of earth known to your feet, and you move with a relaxed, measured stride. As you walk, you pass by the scribes' quarters. Through the open doorways, you can hear the soft, rhythmic scratching of reed styluses pressing into damp clay. You pause for a moment, observing. Young men sit in neat rows, their heads bowed in deep concentration, meticulously recording the day's transactions. The grain harvested, the beer brewed, the wool sheared. It is the language of administration, a complex system of wedge-shaped marks, cuneiform, that captures the lifeblood of Sumerian society. The smell of wet clay drifts out to you, earthy and raw. It is a slow, exacting task, one that requires intense focus and a steady hand. You watch their quiet diligence, appreciating that your work in the brewery is just one thread in the massive, intricately woven tapestry of this civilization. You continue your walk, the golden light catching the edges of the mud brick walls, turning them a warm, glowing amber. You pass the textile workshops, where women sit before large wooden looms. The rhythmic clacking of the shuttles passing through the warp threads creates a steady, percussive beat, a soothing, mechanical sound that speaks of enduring industry. You can see the heavy, textured woolen garments taking shape, woven with patterns that signify status and role. The air here smells faintly of lanolin and dye. There is a profound sense of continuity in their movements, an unbroken rhythm that feels deeply comforting. The work is hard, but it is steady, and there is a quiet dignity in the creation of something so essential. As you draw closer to the communal dining area, the scent of cooking fires begins to reach you, a rich, savory aroma that cuts through the dusty air. It is a smell of roasted meat, perhaps goat or fish from the river, mingling with the distinct, slightly charred scent of flatbread baking on hot stones. Your stomach gives a small, quiet rumble, a gentle reminder that while you have spent the day providing sustenance for others, it is now time to nourish yourself. You feel a simple, deeply rooted anticipation for the evening meal, a time of rest and quiet socialization. You enter the courtyard, a wide, open space surrounded by shaded porticos. The atmosphere is relaxed, the tension of the workday melting away. Small groups of workers, farmers, potters, weavers, and administrators sit together on low wooden benches or mats woven from river reeds. Conversations are muted, the energy low and comfortable. You find a spot near the edge of the courtyard where the shade is deepest and sit down on a smooth stone bench. The cool surface is a relief against the lingering heat of the day. A young server, moving with quiet efficiency, approaches you and places a shallow clay bowl in your hands. It is filled with a thick, robust stew, rich with lentils, barley, and the savory essence of the day's catch. Beside it, they place a round, flat piece of bread, still warm from the oven, its edges slightly darkened from the heat of the fire. You tear a piece of the bread, the crust crisp, the center soft and pliable, and dip it into the stew. The taste is simple, hearty, and deeply satisfying. It is the taste of the earth, the water, and the labor of your community. As you eat, you take in the scene around you. The light is fading more rapidly now, the golden hue deepening into a soft, bruised purple at the edges of the sky. Small oil lamps are being lit along the porticos, their small flames flickering, casting dancing shadows against the walls. The sound of the river, the Euphrates, seems to become more pronounced as the city quiets down, a steady, watery murmur that provides a constant, soothing undertone to the evening. You listen to the soft cadence of the conversations nearby, the rise and fall of voices discussing the harvest, the weather, the small, enduring details of life in this ancient world. The meal is unhurried. You chew slowly, savoring the warmth of the food and the profound sense of physical relaxation that comes after a day of honest labor. There is no rush to finish, no immediate task calling for your attention. The day is done, and the evening belongs to rest. You feel a deep sense of belonging here, a quiet satisfaction in your role within this vast, interconnected society. You are a brewer, a provider, a small but vital part of the great cycle of life in Sumer. When you have finished, you set the empty bowl aside and lean back against the cool stone wall behind you. The courtyard is peaceful, the soft light of the lamps creating a warm, inviting glow. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the gentle sounds of the evening wash over you. The murmur of voices, the distant flow of the river, the soft clatter of clay bowls being gathered. The transition from the active labor of the day to the quiet reflection of the evening is complete. A seamless shift that brings with it a profound sense of peace. You feel ready to let the day go, to surrender to the slow, steady rhythm of the night that is beginning to fall over the ancient city. What would you like to explore next? We can delve deeper into the evening rituals of the Sumerians, or observe another quiet aspect of their daily life. The communal courtyard, once filled with the soft murmur of shared meals and the gentle clatter of clay, has now quieted into the profound stillness of the evening. You rise from the stone bench, feeling the pleasant, heavy fatigue of the day settling into your limbs. It is time to make your way back to your own quarters, a journey that takes you through the heart of the city as it prepares for sleep. You walk with a slow, steady gait, the ground beneath your sandals cool and firm, retaining the memory of the day's heat, but now radiating a gentle, fading warmth into the night air. The city of the evening is a different world entirely. The harsh glare of the sun is gone, replaced by the silvery, ethereal glow of the moon, which hangs high and bright in the clear, cloudless sky. Above you, the canopy of the heavens is vast and overwhelming, filled with a density of stars that feels close enough to touch. In this ancient time, there is no artificial light to dim the majesty of the cosmos. The Milky Way stretches like a pale, luminescent river of light across the darkness, a reminder of the celestial patterns that guide the seasons, the planting, the harvest, and the brewing cycles of your life. You pause for a moment in a narrow, unpaved street, looking upward. You find the constellations that you have known since childhood, the figures of myth and story that are woven into the very fabric of Sumerian belief. There is a deep, instinctual peace in the sight. You know that these stars are the same ones that watched over your ancestors as they built the first mud brick walls of this city, and they will watch over those who come long after you. The realization is grounding, a quiet acknowledgement of your small but meaningful place in the long, unbroken line of human existence. The houses on either side of the street are built of sturdy, sun-dried mud bricks, their flat, square profiles blending seamlessly into the dark shadows. The walls are thick, their surfaces slightly uneven, bearing the subtle marks of the builder's hands. As you pass, you can smell the faint, lingering scent of the day's cooking fires, wood smoke, roasted grains, and herbs, drifting from the small interior courtyards. It is a scent that means home, a comforting, familiar fragrance that wraps around you like a soft cloak. You arrive at your own dwelling, a modest structure tucked away from the main thoroughfare. You push open the heavy wooden door, which swings inward with a soft, familiar creak. The interior is dark, yet cool, the thick walls having protected the space from the extremes of the outdoor temperature throughout the day. You step inside, feeling the immediate sense of privacy and safety. This is your sanctuary, the place where you retreat to restore your spirit. The room is simple and sparse, reflecting a life lived with intentionality. In the center, a woven mat is spread out, ready for rest, its texture familiar and soft beneath your touch. Against one wall, a few essential clay pots hold your meager possessions, a spare garment, a small stone amulet for protection, and a vessel of water. Everything has its place. You move in the dim light with ease, your body knowing the geometry of the space perfectly. You do not need to see to know where you are. You feel it in the stillness of the air. You move to a small, low table and light a single, small oil lamp, the flame casting a warm, flickering glow that dances against the walls. The light is soft and golden, a tiny spark of comfort in the expansive darkness. It illuminates the texture of the mud brick walls, highlighting the subtle variations in the earth and the traces of the straw mixed into the clay. It is a space that breathes, a space that is connected to the ground it rests upon. You sit for a moment on the edge of the mat, listening to the silence. It is not an empty silence. It is full of the gentle ambient sounds of the night. A light breeze whistles softly against the exterior wall, a faint sighing sound that makes the interior feel even more secure. From somewhere in the distance, you hear the low, rhythmic call of a night bird, a sound that is as ancient as the stars above. These are the sounds of a world that is resting, a world that is in harmony with the cycle of the day and night. You begin to prepare for sleep, your movements slow and deliberate, a continuation of the steady, unhurried rhythm that has defined your entire day. You remove your sandals, feeling the relief in your feet, and place them neatly by the door. You loosen your simple wool garment, the fabric soft and worn, and fold it with care. Each motion is a quiet act of gratitude for the body that carried you through the day's labor. You are tired, but it is a good tiredness, the kind that comes from work that matters, work that contributes to the life of the community. As you lie down on the mat, you pull a light woven coverlet over yourself. The texture is rough yet comforting, a familiar embrace. You look up at the ceiling, where the faint, filtered light of the moon creates soft, dancing patterns through the small openings in the roof. The air is cool, the heat of the day having completely dissipated, leaving the room refreshed and still. You feel your muscles beginning to unwind, the tension draining away, your heart rate slowing to match the quiet pulse of the night. You find yourself reflecting on the day's work, the crushing of the dates, the stirring of the mash, the careful filtration of the brew. It all feels distant now, part of a rhythm that is larger than yourself. You have played your part, and the work is good. There is a profound sense of closure in this thought, a feeling that everything is as it should be. The city is sleeping, the temple is quiet, and the brew is resting in the cool darkness of the brewery, just as you are resting here. The candle flame flickers one last time, a gentle golden heartbeat, before you reach out and snuff it out, leaving the room in a soft, welcoming darkness. The night is quiet, save for the faint, steady breath of the world outside. You close your eyes, the image of the stars still lingering in your mind, a vast, sparkling map that seems to offer a silent, protective watch over the city. You feel the cool air against your skin, the solid support of the earth beneath your mat, and the deep, pervasive silence that is the true gift of the night. You are ready to let go, to drift into the quiet, restoring waters of sleep, feeling perfectly held by the simplicity and the stillness of your world. While your mind drifts into the deep, restorative spaces of sleep, the camera leaves the quiet sanctuary of your mud brick home, gliding back through the silver-lit streets of the sleeping city. The air outside is crisp and still, the dust of the day completely settled, and the only motion is the slow, majestic transit of the moon across the midnight sky. The path winds back toward the massive walls of the temple complex, where the shadows of the ziggurat stretch long and dark across the empty courtyards. Passing through the heavy wooden gates of the brewery once more, the environment feels entirely transformed by the night. The warm, golden light of the afternoon has given way to an ethereal, cool glow, filtering down through the high wall apertures and striking the polished clay floors in sharp, pale, geometric shapes. Inside this dark sanctuary, the large earthenware vats stand in perfect, silent alignment, partially buried in the earth like ancient monuments. Although the human workers have departed, the brewery is far from inert. Beneath the heavy clay lids that you secured hours ago, a silent, invisible alchemy has begun to take place. The meticulous combination of baked papyr, pure river water, concentrated date syrup, and delicate dried herbs is no longer just a collection of separate elements. It has begun to coalesce, breathing with a hidden, mysterious life of its own, initiating the sacred process of fermentation that lies at the absolute heart of the Sumerian brewing craft. If you were to lift the edge of a heavy ceramic lid, the moonlight would catch a remarkable sight within the darkness of the vessel. The surface of the liquid, which was perfectly still when you left it, is now alive with tiny, microscopic motion. Small, translucent bubbles are rising steadily from the very bottom of the vat, journeying through the amber depths to break gently upon the surface. The wild yeasts, naturally abundant in the air of the sacred temple and preserved on the dark textured skins of the sun-dried dates, have found their ideal sanctuary. They are consuming the rich sugars unlocked from the barley bread, transforming the mixture into the nourishing, safe, and life-giving beverage that sustains your people. To your civilization, this mysterious frothing and changing of the liquid is not viewed as a mere mechanical or chemical reaction. It is understood as a deeply spiritual occurrence, the literal, active presence of Ninkasi, the goddess of brewing, breathing her essence into the vats. It is believed that she actively filters the brew with her divine hands, smoothing away the harshness and infusing the liquid with a sacred sweetness and restorative power. The soft, rhythmic sound of the bubbles breaking, a delicate, continuous hiss and pop, echoes faintly in the vast room, sounding very much like a whispered prayer or a gentle, repetitive lullaby that honors the goddess of the hearth. The aroma inside the brewery has undergone a profound shift over these quiet hours. The sharp, sugary scent of raw dates and the distinct citrusy notes of the fresh coriander have mellowed, blending into a deep, complex fragrance that is slightly tangy, rich, and intensely comforting. It is the unmistakable smell of active fermentation, a heavy, yeasty vapor that hangs in the air, illuminated where it crosses the narrow beams of moonlight. This scent is a reassurance, a sign that the balance you worked so hard to achieve during the day was correct, and that the natural world is responding precisely as it should to your careful preparations. The temperature within the room remains remarkably stable, a testament to the ancient architectural wisdom of the mud brick design. The immense thickness of the walls acts as a permanent shield, completely isolating the delicate fermentation process from the cool chill of the Mesopotamian night, just as it protects it from the blazing heat of the noon sun. This thermal stability is crucial for the yeast, allowing it to work at a steady, unhurried pace. If the environment were to become too cold, the life within the liquid would fall dormant, slowing the process to a halt. If it became too warm, the brew would quickly sour and spoil. Instead, it rests in a perfect, unchanging equilibrium. Outside the thick walls, a gentle night wind rustles through the groves of date palms that line the sacred temple gardens. Their long, feathery fronds click together with a dry, soothing sound, casting intricate, moving shadows against the exterior masonry. The entire city sleeps deeply under the watchful, silver gaze of Nana, the moon god, who sails across the celestial ocean in his glowing boat. The world outside is paused, suspended in a state of absolute rest. Yet inside the dark vats, the creation of sustenance continues without a single moment of interruption, a silent testament to the enduring cycles of life and labor. Looking closer into the main vat, you can see that a thick, luxurious layer of creamy foam has begun to form across the top of the liquid. This dense, frothy head acts as a natural protective blanket, sealing in the delicate aromas of the herbs and protecting the fermenting beer from the air above. The foam rises and falls very slightly, a slow, rhythmic movement that mirrors the steady breathing of a sleeping creature. It is textured and rich, catching the dim light and creating a soft, undulating topography of cream and shadow within the rim of the clay jar. Each of the buried vessels operates on its own subtle, unique timeline. In one jar, the bubbles rise with a gentle, steady urgency, creating a lively dance upon the surface, while in the adjacent vat, the liquid simmers with a slow, quiet dignity, the foam forming more gradually. These slight variations are natural, reflecting the individual character of the handmade clay jars and the subtle differences in the texture of the crumbled bread. This variety is embraced by the temple brewers, who know that each batch will possess its own unique nuance, its own distinct voice in the final chorus of the harvest celebration. This overnight transformation represents the true essence of the meticulous art of brewing. It is a process that requires the absolute surrender of human control to the unseen, benevolent forces of the universe. Once the proper steps have been taken, once the labor has been performed with reverence and precision, the brewer must step back and trust that the world will provide. It is a beautiful lesson in patience and faith, a reminder that the most significant transformations often happen in the dark, in the quiet, and entirely out of sight. As the deep night reaches its midpoint, The shadows within the brewery lengthen and shift, following the slow, silent arc of the moon outside. The room remains a sanctuary of peace, productivity, and ancestral memory. The liquid continues to mature, growing richer, clearer, and more potent with every passing hour, preparing itself for the final stages of completion that await it when the sun rises once more. The camera lingers on the peaceful image of the bubbling vats.
YouTube title:
The sound
History
of the fermentation
Podcast
blending
for Sleep.
seamlessly.
The meticulous ancient
whispering
Sumerian
wind,
art of
holding
beer
the
brewing.
entire sacred space
Section
in a state
9.
of calm, eternal
The
grace. Deep indigo darkness of the night begins to retreat, surrendering to the soft, pale gray that heralds the arrival of a new dawn. Inside the brewery, the air is still cool, holding the lingering quiet of the long hours of darkness. The moon has finished its transit, and the first tentative light of morning starts to filter through the high, narrow apertures in the mud brick walls. It is a slow, gradual transformation, the shadows retreating as the room fills with a diffuse, gentle luminescence that reveals the familiar shapes of the vats and the tools of your trade. The silence of the night is now replaced by the subtle, awakening sounds of the world outside. The distant, rhythmic lowing of cattle, the faint, melodic call of a bird in the temple gardens, and the very first stirrings of the city as it shakes off the slumber of the night. You step through the doorway once more, the morning air crisp and refreshing against your skin. You are rested, your movements light and easy as you re-enter the sanctuary of the brewery. The space feels different in the early morning light. It is a place of anticipation, of a cycle nearing its completion. The heavy, yeasty scent of fermentation still hangs in the air, but it has softened, deepened, and grown more complex, a testament to the quiet work that has taken place while you were away. You take a slow, deep breath, savoring the fragrance of the maturing brew, a smell that is now inextricably linked to the comfort and safety of your daily life. Your first task is to assess the progress of the vats. You move from vessel to vessel, your footsteps silent on the packed clay floor. You stop before the first, the large earthenware jar that you tended with such care the day before. The foam, the dense, protective blanket that you observed settling into a rhythmic motion during the night, has now thickened into a rich, creamy crust. It is a sign of a healthy, vigorous fermentation, a visual confirmation that the yeast has thrived, consuming the sugars and creating the life-giving liquid beneath. You look at it with a sense of quiet pride. This is the moment of verification, the confirmation that the conditions you established were exactly what was needed. You carefully lift the lid, the heavy clay cool and smooth under your hand. You lean in, observing the surface. The foam is not just a crust. It is an active, living substance. Small, delicate bubbles still pop with a gentle, whispering sound, a soft, rhythmic texture that speaks of the ongoing transformation within. You notice the color, too, a rich, deep shade of amber that hints at the potency and the flavor that has been developing in the dark. It is clear, clean, and vibrant. You know from years of practice that this is the perfect moment, the sweet spot where the strength of the brew is at its peak. This morning inspection is a ritual as important as the brewing itself. It is a time for observation, for listening to the brew, for understanding the subtle language of the fermentation. You move to the next vat, then the next, repeating the inspection with the same meticulous care. Each one tells a slightly different story, a unique variation on the theme, yet all share the same hallmark of success. The consistency across the vessels is a testament to the uniformity of your process, a reflection of the dedication and the standardization that defines the Temple Brewery.
You find a deep, steadying peace in this consistency. It is the physical manifestation of order in a world that can be unpredictable. As you finish your rounds, the light through the apertures begins to warm, the pale gray transitioning into a soft golden yellow. The brewery is no longer in shadow. It is filled with a bright, clean morning clarity that highlights the textures of the clay, the patterns on the reed mats, and the smooth, polished wood of the stirring paddles. The environment feels fresh, ready for the final stages of the day. You feel a surge of energy, a quiet, contained sense of purpose that matches the awakening world outside. The fermentation phase is complete, and the brew is now ready to be moved into its final state, the transition from the active, living mash to the refined, shelf-stable beer that will serve the community. You gather the final tools required for this stage: the wide, shallow strainers, the clean storage jars that have been waiting, washed and dried, and the long, thin reeds that will act as straws for sampling. The work ahead is lighter than the labor of the day before. It is the work of finishing, of bringing the product of your patience to its final form. You move with a fluid, economical grace, each action building upon the previous one. There is a natural momentum to this stage of the process, a feeling of being carried by the work rather than fighting against it. You start with the first vat, using a wide-rimmed bowl to skim the thick, protective foam from the surface. It is a gentle, delicate action, skimming away the top layer to reveal the clear, amber liquid beneath. You place the foam in a separate container, recognizing that it, too, has value, often used in other preparations or as a starter for the next batch of bread. Nothing is wasted in this cycle of creation. As you clear the surface, the liquid below is exposed to the morning air, its clarity and brightness becoming fully visible. It is a beautiful sight, the culmination of the work you began yesterday morning. You take a small sample, pouring a tiny amount into a small clay cup. You lift it to your nose, the aroma bright, slightly acidic, and deeply bready, with the faintest hint of the coriander and dates you added hours ago. It is a complex, layered scent, one that promises refreshment and nourishment. You take a slow, thoughtful sip, letting the flavors settle on your palate. It is distinct, the perfect balance of sweetness and tartness, the earthy weight of the barley, the bright, clean finish of the herbs. It is the signature of your temple's brew, a flavor that is recognized and trusted throughout the city. A sense of profound satisfaction settles over you. You have done it again. You have successfully navigated the entire process, from the first crushing of the bread to this final, clear liquid. You have respected the tradition, followed the steps with care, and trusted the elements to do their part. The result is more than just a drink. It is a manifestation of the harmonious relationship between the city, the land, and the divine.
You feel a quiet internal resonance, a deep-seated connection to the work and the culture that sustains you. Outside, the temple complex is now fully awake. You can hear the sounds of life intensifying, the call of the temple officials, the footsteps of the workers, the distant rhythmic chanting of a hymn from the inner sanctum. The city is beginning its day, and you are ready to meet it. The brewery, once a place of quiet, dark potential, is now a place of completed creation, a place where the work of the day has been realized. You feel a sense of lightness, a feeling of having fulfilled your role in the great cycle. And as you begin to prepare for the final stage of storage, you find yourself with the quality of the brew verified, grounded the focus of your morning shifts steady to the task of your preservation and distribution, ready to embrace the day ahead. You are now transitioning from the active phase of creation to the meticulous stage of storage. Around you, the brewery has become a hive of quiet, organized activity. You and your colleagues move with a shared, unspoken understanding, each task performed with the efficiency of long practice. You reach for the series of smaller, transportable clay jars lined up against the far wall, vessels that have been specifically fired and prepared for the storage of the finished product. These jars are smooth to the touch, their surfaces sealed with a fine, natural resin that ensures the beer remains untouched by the porous clay, preserving its delicate flavor profile for weeks to come. You pick up a large, long-handled ladle crafted from a polished gourd, its surface worn smooth by years of contact with various liquids. You reach into the primary vat, the motion slow and deliberate, to avoid disturbing any remaining sediment at the bottom. As you lift the ladle, the golden liquid catches the light, glowing with an inner radiance. You pour it into the first storage jar, the sound of the liquid cascading in a steady, rhythmic stream. It is a satisfying, bubbling noise, soft and percussive, that harmonizes with the distant, muffled sounds of the city coming to life beyond the temple walls. You watch the level rise, noting the way the liquid settles, clear and bright, against the inner walls of the vessel. This process is not merely about storage. It is about the stewardship of resources. In the Sumerian economy, beer is a standard of value, a commodity as essential as grain or oil. It is used to pay the rations of temple laborers, to provide offerings to the gods, and to serve as a cornerstone of the hospitality that defines your society. By carefully decanting the brew, you are securing the wealth of the temple, ensuring that this gift of Ninkasi is distributed fairly and preserved until it is needed. You feel a sense of responsibility as you fill each jar, a quiet awareness that this is not just a drink, but a vital link in the chain that keeps the city functioning. As you work, the morning light spills further into the room, illuminating the dust motes that dance in the air above the vats. The brewery is warm now, yet the thick mud brick architecture continues to maintain a gentle, stable environment that protects the beer from the shifting temperatures outside. You move from jar to jar, your sandals padding softly on the packed earth floor. The repetition of the action, dip, lift, pour, repeat, acts as a metronome for your thoughts. You find your mind wandering to the history of this space, to the countless generations of brewers who have stood in this exact spot, performing the same motions. You are merely one in a long, unbroken succession, a custodian of a tradition that predates memory. Once a jar is filled, you place a circular clay stopper over the mouth, securing it with a layer of damp, malleable clay that you press firmly into the rim to create an airtight seal. This is the final step in protecting the liquid, the final act of your brewing labor. You press your thumb into the soft clay, leaving a deliberate, simple mark. A signature of sorts, or perhaps simply a sign of completion. It is a grounding, tactile sensation, feeling the clay yield under your pressure, hardening as it begins to dry in the warm air of the room. This jar is now a closed system, a vessel of potential, waiting for the moment it will be opened to provide nourishment or joy. You look around the room at the rows of sealed jars, their tops uniform, their presence silent and orderly. The brewery feels transformed, moving from a place of active, visible work to a place of quiet, stored value. You feel a deep, physical sense of accomplishment. The day before, the brewery was filled with raw, disparate ingredients. Today, it is filled with a finished product that is ready to serve the community. The shift is subtle, yet profound. The labor has been crystallized into this result, and there is a peacefulness in seeing the evidence of your efforts lined up, ready, and waiting. Outside the brewery, the temple courtyard is now a scene of mild activity. You can hear the voices of the temple administrators as they move through the complex, their discussions concerning the logistics of the day, the allotment of grain, the arrival of trade caravans, the preparation for the upcoming festivals. They speak in the measured, rhythmic tones of officials, a background sound that is as constant as the hum of the river. You find the contrast between their administrative focus and your own tangible, craft-based work to be balanced and harmonious. They manage the city's affairs. You provide the sustenance that fuels the people who carry them out. You take a break, leaning against a wooden support beam that reaches from the floor to the vaulted ceiling. The wood is cool, weathered by time, and feels solid under your back. You watch your colleagues as they finish their own sections of the brewery, their movements synchronized and efficient. There is no need for directive. The flow of the work is understood by everyone. You see a sense of shared purpose in their faces, a quiet satisfaction that mirrors your own. It is a community of labor where individual effort contributes to a collective goal that is larger than any one person. This is the foundation of your society, the belief that every role, no matter how small, is essential to the stability and prosperity of the city. The scent of the brewery, now a mixture of the fresh brew, the damp clay, and the faint, sweet trace of the dried herbs, is deeply comforting. It is a scent that you associate with home, with safety, and with the rhythm of the seasons. You find yourself inhaling deeply, letting the familiar aroma fill your lungs, grounding you in the present moment. You have no worries about the future, no lingering concerns about the past. There is only the immediate reality of the brewery, the solid work you have completed, and the quiet, steady hum of the temple community that surrounds you. As the morning progresses, the sun climbs higher, and the quality of the light in the brewery softens. losing its sharp, direct clarity and becoming more diffuse, more gentle. It creates a serene atmosphere, a sense of timelessness that seems to permeate every corner of the room. You realize that you have reached the point where the major tasks of the day are largely behind you. The brew is safe, the vessels are sealed, and the brewery is once again transitioning into a state of quiet, watchful stewardship. You feel a profound sense of ease, a relaxation that starts in your core and spreads outward. Your body loose, your breath slow and deep. You are ready to let the day unfold, knowing that the work has been done well and that you are an integral part of this ancient, enduring world. Steady and secure as the day continues its slow, peaceful passage.